Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Zcash Arborist call. Today, I'll just run through the welcome and some meeting intros. We'll do some core team updates from ZF and ECC, jump into research and implementation updates, and then we'll have some time for discussion topics or open news and announcements. Arborist calls are bi-weekly calls where Zcash protocol contributors convene to discuss upgrade timelines, process, protocol R&D efforts, design and implementation of new protocol features, and identify blockers and unresolved issues. The purpose of these calls is to make Zcash core protocol development accessible for a wider set of participants and provide more transparency for the community at large. Anyone can participate. Anyone who's interested in learning about the Zcash protocol development can register at zcasharborist.org. And if you want to present an in-depth agenda item relevant to the Zcash protocol, please email us at arboristcall@zfnd.org to request a presentation slot. Other ways to get involved in the community and ecosystem, we have ZCG, the Zcash Community Grants Program. You can jump in the Zcash R&D Discord, join us on the Zcash Community Forum, and you can find all these links by jumping over to the zcasharborist.org. Recently, the Arborist call have changed the links, and the late slot has been changed to 2100 UTC. Previously was 2230, and the earlier slot is like today is staying the same at 1500 UTC. And we've recently switched the Zoom registration links, and those new links can be found at zcasharborist.org. And we'll get started and jump over to some core team updates, starting with the foundation to talk about Zebra.
So in Zebra, we're finishing the new Light Wallet D support. The changes will be included in the upcoming release, and we also have new optimization in place. The node commitment trees are deduplicated, and that saved us about 13% of space, and that also means that the database will grow by 13% less, basically. That's the expected growth, and that's about that. The size of the database was around 278 gigabytes recently, and now it's at 244 gigabytes.
What was the previous source of the duplication?
Oh, so for each block height, we were storing sapling and orchard tree, even if it was the same tree as the previous one. And now we only store unique trees. Yeah, that's all from me.
Thanks, Merrick. Next, we'll hear from ECC.
Hi, as you may have heard, now that Nick is gone from ECC, I'm personally taking over engineering management and product. And the products include the mobile SDKs, and that's what we've been primarily focused on. The current state is we've got a few bug fixes under testing, and I'm going to paste, if I can find it, I'm going to paste a link in here so anyone who's interested can look at the DAG of dependencies that we look at.
Directed a cyclic graph for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to paste a link. Send to hosts and panelists. Panelists. Oh, well, I don't know how to send in this app, but maybe.
I can post that link if you want to. Go. I got it.
All right. So anyway, if you look at that link, it's the directed acyclic graph of all of the work that I know of in our GitHubs, but the part that is that we're focused on is, how do I put this? If you're curious about the details, I guess you'll have to reach out to me after. But there's a giant graph with all kinds of work, but a subset of that tree is what we're focused on, which is delivering the mobile SDKs. Also, Nate is not going to be here, or he's going to be late. So he asked me to report that he's working on a post about the feedback and conversations from ZCon 4 about proof of stake. I think that's pretty much it. Any questions for us? Chris, looks like you're talking.
Sorry, muted. Yeah. Okay. Dara is correct. It doesn't look like we can send chat messages that are visible by the attendees, just by the hosts and panelists. So that might be a Zoom setting or something like that.
Yep, I will look into that.
Yeah, it was probably set differently for the old link.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank
there's
you.
a great question in the Q&A from Andrew Arnott.
Let's see. I'm afraid if I
So I think that right now we would characterize the Zcash client backend and Zcash client SQLite projects as the SDKs that target or that can be used to target desktop platforms. And in fact, there is, so Strad has built a sort of minimal for testing CLI wallet atop Zcash client SQLite that we use internally, and the source is available, but it is not recommended for any sort of production use at this point because it's a testing thing. But it can give you an idea of how to go about using the Zcash client SQLite crate to support a desktop wallet.
There's
Yeah,
the link there. Is
mean,
that the link to the client, the CLI?
That's to the DAG, the one that you posted earlier. Yeah,
Chris,
I was
go
going
ahead.
to say, so the vast majority of the code is in Rust. There is some Swift and Kotlin code, but if you stick to the Rust code, then that definitely will work on desktop platforms.
Chris, can you get the link to the CLI tool?
Yeah.
While you're doing that, let me answer.
Yeah, again, not for production use.
Yeah, let me answer Andrew Arnott's question with the engineering manager and product owner perspective. The mobile SDKs for iOS and Android are what I think of as supported products. And there's a third category that's sort of coalescing into a supported product, which I'm calling the Zcash Core Libs in my head. There's a bunch of different crates. But I don't know if the things you would need that Darren, Chris were just describing are going to be in that Zcash Core Libs thing. So basically, it may not be supported by us. We may not prioritize answering your questions or fixing the bugs in it. Or we might in the future.
So previously we've treated the internal interfaces in those crates as unstable. We can change them whenever we like, as long as we update everything. So that's one sense in which it is not a product, even though there are products relying on it.
Yeah, so we're considering upgrading some of that code into supported, in which case you would get such nice things that we wouldn't be changing the interfaces without warning you and stuff like that. But currently we're just focused on the mobile SDKs.
Yeah. So we wouldn't be warning you in advance, but the change logs are pretty comprehensive. So if you follow the change logs, then you can make all the changes that we're making.
Mm-hmm. So were we not able to get the link? What was that chat say? Yeah, Paku has a really good point that the the SDKs contain logic that you're actually going to need for a client, even if it's a desktop client. That produces a 404. So Chris, the Zcash Hackworks link doesn't work.
Yeah, because it's still private. I think. Let me just check.
Does that make sense, Andrew? There's a lot of information.
Any other questions for on this topic for ECC?
Yeah, so that repo is indeed private.
Okay, let's jump to research and implementation updates, starting with Frost.
Yep. So what's going on is that our Frost library was being audited by NCC, so the audit is complete. They only found medium and low severity issues. The medium, it's very windy here. The medium issues were related to panics that, in some cases our code would panic. So we fixed that. We fixed all of the issues that the audit found. So just waiting for the PRs to be reviewed because a bunch of people are on conference or on leave. So, but we probably get everything merged by the end of the month or by the beginning of September. So that's great. And I'm also documenting the demo that we presented at ZCon. So there's a demo for using Frost with Zcash using the Y wallet, using Y wallet. So yeah, we needed documentation for people to be able to reproduce the demo. So that's almost done. So it needs to be reviewed and merged. So yeah, people can use Frost right now with Zcash. It's it's a bunch of command line tools, but it's possible, and you need to copy and paste message between participants, but it's possible. So what we're looking for now is we're still planning, figure things out, what's going to happen next. But we'd like to collaborate with wallet developers so that wallets can support Frost. There's a bunch of issues related to that, which are related to how to make participants communicate with each other and stuff like that. I'm also writing a section on our documentation to explain these issues and how they could be solved. But yeah, that would be probably our next steps. The wind is very loud. That's it.
Thanks, Conrado. Next, we can jump into ZSAs. I think we have Vivek on here.
Yeah, hi. So, yeah, I think this is like my first meeting, first Arborist call since ZCon. So just wanted to say thanks for the organization and stuff. We had a lot of fun, and I think we had some good discussions as well. And yeah, just to re-up, we had a demo there, and it's like available for everyone to try out if they want to. Yeah, so one of the discussions that we had at ZCon was about including an enable ZSAs flag in like our implementation. And that's sort of like a good way to like be able to pause ZSAs if it's ever necessary to do so for any reason. And also like that will give us a way to like stop, like not have ZSAs as an option to be minted in Coinbase transactions. So yeah, based on that discussion, we've added that into the Orchard implementation now. And I think we've updated the circuit document that we had shared last month or so. And zips are not updated with that yet, but it's in the implementation now.
So is that a public input to the circuit as well, so that it can enforce that all of the bases, the value bases are ZAC?
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
that's the case. Yeah.
Thanks.
So it's sort of like linked to the is native asset, but not fully in the sense that is native asset remains private. And so if enable ZSAs is on, then is native asset could be like off. But if the other way around doesn't happen,
I see.
that if enable ZSAs is off, then is native asset is fixed to be true. So,
Yep, and that's very much in the spirit of the enable spends and enable outputs
Yeah.
that we already have.
yeah,
So that makes sense.
So yeah, on the implementation side, I think like so far we've been making our changes on the V5 transaction structure, like in Orchard. And so we've now started like looking into like moving the things into like a separate V6 transaction structure so that we are not like just like messing with the V5 structure that's there. So that's work that's in progress. We've also like started the benchmarking of the proof size and proof time and things like that for the circuit we have right now. And like that's like a first step, see how much it's changed compared to the original circuit, and then we'll be able to start on like optimizations and stuff. Yeah, I guess another change that we are looking at now is the move from Zcash D to Zebra. So we've been discussing like in our calls with the foundation and the engineers there, and I guess like we are looking at like what we need to do to make sure we have the like support for ZSAs on Zebra as well. Because so far, I think we've been using Zcash D for our testing, and our demo and stuff is all like using Zcash D and the command line interface. So we'll have to like see how we move to Zebra. On the Zip side, I was on leave for a few weeks post the conference, so I've started getting back into like answering the pending comments. There are still some comments pending that I haven't answered, so getting on with that, and hopefully should have like progress with that in the next few days and so on. And on the asset swap side, I think we have some initial design ideas that we've put down, and we think we are looking at like proof aggregation as something that will be helpful to us in the like for doing the asset swaps. So that's sort of where we are on that project. Yeah, I think that's my update for now. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Vivek. Any questions? Check the chat real quick.
Yeah, about the that enable ZSA's flag, I thought of a question which I now realize is not relevant, but we could maybe split that into enable non-native spends and enable non-native outputs. But then I realized that the non-native assets have to balance in the shielded parts, whereas that's not true for ZEC because you can shield and unshield. So it doesn't actually make sense to split the flag that way.
Okay, let's see. I don't think we have anybody from Equilibrium or Shielded Labs to talk about Sustainability Fund. Let's see. Oh, we have an attendee. Okay, so let's if there's no more questions on ZSAs, we can jump.
Oh, I could give an update on proof of stake.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so at ZCon, I gave a presentation that was about like the beginning of a design, and there were a lot of good questions in that presentation, and people had brought my attention to a concern that the security provided by that design would be sort of the minimum of the two components, which seems like a drawback. So since then, I went back and just started reviewing the ebb and flow paper to understand that better. And so I've just started doing that with Dara's help. And there's a few issues. One is I'm not sure if the design I was proposing actually fits the ebb and flow paper. And then second, I haven't learned yet. It talks about this issue of the security, like basically the cost of attack being the minimum, the cost to attack either component. So I'm just reviewing that. That's the update there. Oh, and I
Yeah,
plan to do a short post for a general audience, sort of recapping discussions that came out of Zcon related to proof of stake.
yeah. So I've not fully understood the ebb and flow paper, but my understanding is that the security of the finalized ledger in ebb and flow is only dependent on the BFT Byzantine consensus protocol rather than the longest chain protocol. Let's hang on. Is that true? No, I can no longer convince myself of that statement. So ignore that statement. That might not be true. Yeah, it's something we definitely have to analyze in much more depth.
Any other questions on proof of stake?
Oh yeah, I also sort of raised a question about compatibility of ebb and flow with scalability proposals. So for example, the proposal that I made in Zcon 1 and Amsterdam ZK proof is not compatible because of the transaction reordering that is done in ebb and flow. It's called sanitization in the paper. But I mean, maybe that can be fixed. It's just that we should think about scalability as we're designing the proof of stake.
Yeah, so in the chat, I noticed Jack Gavigan saying the concern only applies for hybrid proof of work and proof of stake question. And I'm not sure yet because the strange thing is I think ebb and flow assumes, well, it's describing two subprotocols that I think are just independent black boxes. But Ethereum is a real life example that uses proof of stake, and it's close to an ebb and flow design. But then the further confusing thing is both subprotocols are relying on the same state, but maybe at different timescales or something. So I don't understand that very well. So I want to look more into that. So
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that yet.
The ebb and flow paper doesn't make any commitment to sort of what the consensus mechanism is in the BFT protocol and the longest chain protocol. So there are many different combinations, and it seems likely that we will use proof of stake for the BFT and proof of work for the longest chain, but that's by no means decided, and this is one of the things that we need to analyze.
Okay. Thank you all. We can jump over to open news and announcements. If anybody has some news or announcements they'd like to share, just jump in, raise your hand. Paco?
All right. Yeah. So this is like almost the first month of my brand, and lately I've been working on a couple of things. First, we worked with Nighthawk to review a lot of PRs that they are doing in their app on their branch of the Zcash code base, and also doing some heavy testing and like shaking things up in the migration code. This means like Nighthawk has a current version in the App Store that is based on the ECC reference wallet, which is another repo, another different kind of app, and a totally different underlying key management. And when they update to the new version, those keys will have to be migrated either like automatically or manually with the user like importing the seed again and all that. So I helped a little bit test that hands-on, since it's mostly like a manual process where you have to like build the old app in your device and then build a new one, and you have to have an Apple developer thing to be able to test that. So I helped Matt and Addy with that. Also, a lot of other PRs. And then regarding Zingo, we're progressing on tools for creating these dark side wallet tests that will help test all wallets. I'm mostly doing a test that it's called Second Flush of Enthusiasm, which is the most typical situation when you onboard a friend, then that friend forgets about Zcash and the app and all, and time passes, and then suddenly remembers it and wants to either receive Zcash or use it, and like a month or 3 months have passed, and the wallet has to catch up, and we want to be able to create such a data set that you can actually measure what's that scenario and how the wallet behaves. So that involves a lot of like tooling and working with Rectest Zcash, and I'm working on Docker Compose, like not running Zcash on my computer to have that reproducible and all, and that's in progress and like give or take almost ready because of a few like bumps on the road, but on a good track, and with leaving a lot of documentation and probably articles and tutorials on how to do stuff to do testing tooling on Zcash. So that's pretty cool. Also, yesterday we have a unfortunate incident with Sec Wallet mobile that we fortunately got feedback in Twitter. John helped me to respond among other Zcashers, and we could, I don't know, raise awareness. The server was back up, so I'll be probably writing some, I don't know what's the format, but some recommendations for wallets on how to deal with offline modes and stuff to have like user secure, and also like how the sunset app, if like for example, like Seg Wallet seems to be not so maintained, and I know that the ECC has taken measures on the c.cash side to have that reflected there regarding the wallet listing. And well, we should kind of like write guidelines on how developers, if they want to sunset an app and like maybe build another, or just like not build it, just have practices to not let the users hanging. For example, that kind of like what those users failed when they suddenly had their app not working and they couldn't get the keys or anything else. So that's about like these last 2 weeks have been from the previous update.
Thanks, Paco. Do you wanna mention the Light Client working group call?
Oh yeah, yeah, we have the Light Client working group in an hour and a half. As part of my grant, I'll be kind of like doing the administration of it. There's no way of a management thing. It's just like helping out, getting the venue, I'm looking for like better or more suitable schedules for everyone. We have people all over the world, so the current schedule might not be the best time for some people. So we're trying to be nice and inclusive with everyone, and we will be doing as much as we can. As for the world, it's round, so had to handle that. Well, Dan, you have been helping me a lot to get the Zoom call for this this time. Time stays the same for until we announce it. If you have any suggestions or things that you would like to see change or new things that you want to see in the Litecoin working group, please ping me and we'll work it out. And see you everyone that wants to attend in an hour and a half.
Great. Thanks, Baku. Any other news or announcements? Anybody like to share? Let's see. I don't see any
So
hands.
someone had suggested that they could give an update on the sustainability fund, I think.
Sure. Go ahead. I'm not sure who that was.
Tomek.
Okay.
Yes, that's me. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
All right. So thank you, and thank you, Zuko, for noticing my message. So given this is my first Arborist call, I'll maybe briefly introduce myself. So I'm a Rust engineer. My name is Tomek. I'm from Poland, and I work at Eiger. And I've been working with Jason, Mark, and Mariusz, who is also an engineer at Eiger, on the Sustainability Fund. So what we are working on now is we are preparing what it looks like it's going to be 3 zips. So the first one was submitted last week, and it was reviewed partly by Dara and Tior. We got some good feedback, so we're going to be working on addressing that. We are currently working on another zip, which will introduce the smoothing of the issuance curve. So the goal there is to replace the 4-year halving schema with a smooth issuance curve, so that there are no halvings. At the same time, maintaining the same issuance rate, meaning in any given 4 period, approximately half of the allotted funds will be paid out as block rewards. So this is going to be our zip 2, and what we are discussing right now is probably a possible zip 3 from our end, which will provide another non-optional way of funding the ZSF. This might be something that Nathan suggested a while ago, which was redirecting part of the transaction fees towards the ZSF. Again, this is something we are still discussing internally, so we will be working on that, I guess, next week or a week after that. So we will keep you guys up to date, any possible developments there.
Great. Thank you, Tomek, and thanks for joining us and jumping in. Any questions on that?
Okay, I have a question. Are you going to just propose a full EIP 1559 style fee upgrade? Or less than that? Or what?
That's a good question. This is something, actually, we were discussing this today. So, but we haven't made our minds yet. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
So EIP 1559, if I understand correctly, burns the fees or part of the fees. I guess the mechanism could be similar, even though the destination of the funds is different.
I think EIP 1559 Lite is fairly complicated compared to just redirecting fees from the current system. From my understanding, because there's a couple of reasons. One is you need consensus about what the current fee rate is, and then the second piece is that Ethereum does a thing where in any given block there's a network-wide fee rate, but whoever generates the transaction has to generate it before they know which block it goes into. So then I believe they get a week, depending on which block they get into, which we can't do very easily at all in UTX code. So I think it's complicated.
Yeah,
It's different enough from Ethereum that it would take some amount of work to do right.
Yeah, and it's particularly more difficult to refund a anonymous sender. I guess you could provide an address, which would be a one-time use address, and that could work. But it seems a lot more complicated than is actually necessary for the goal. Anyway.
Any other thoughts or questions on that?
Okay, I can't resist adding one thought. I'm not even sure if this is accurate, but if you're looking at fee thingies as part of your sustainability work, what I'm looking at almost all day long is the user interface for the Zashi wallet. And so I have a user interface driven request for you as a protocol developer, which is it'd be a much better user experience if the user could know before entering the transaction details how much the fee would be.
Seems reasonable.
Please write it down. It's actually really important for users.
Wait, before they, I mean, before they specify how much they want to transfer?
I didn't say it was possible. I just said it would be great.
Yeah, okay.
Before they confirm the transaction. Because that's the user
No,
interface.
that's not even what I said.
Okay.
I said before they enter the transaction details, it would be awesome if they knew how much the fee would be. Please
that's incompatible
write
with
that
zip.
down.
It's incompatible with zip 317, but
I know.
Okay.
But please write it down as a user experience, a consequential user experience difference for your potential future consensus protocols is how early the user can know exactly what the fee will be.
I mean,
an estimate is not very good. It's much worse in user experience terms.
Yeah, in scalability proposals, you can potentially make transactions constant cost in terms of network resources, regardless of how many inputs or outputs they spend using recursive proofs. And so in that case, you could use a constant fee. But I think we've learnt from the sandblasting attack that, or the sandblasting situation, that constant fees are problematic in Zcash-like networks as they stand. And by constant fees, I actually can I just refine that statement? Because it's not constant fees that matter. It's fees that don't depend on the cost of the particular transaction. So just having a variable network-wide fee that is the same for all transactions, that is still problematic for denial of service. Carry on.
Paku's got their hand raised. Go ahead, Paku.
Yeah, I guess that it depends on like what's the fee, or what the fee change, or like the fee being cheaper or more expensive is to the user. What does it mean to the user in terms of like their experience or their expectation? Like if I know nothing about fees and protocols and I say, oh, if I put a higher fee, like what's my premium, what I will be paying for, like in terms of like classic fee on Bitcoin or on proof of work Ethereum, it was like the more fee you put, the faster the transaction was. So I guess if you had an oracle that could have that information, for example, then, and that's the goal of the fees or on Zcash, then you don't not necessarily need to know beforehand, but you can have estimates you can decide upon, which is like the current experience of wallets. We have the difference, which is like we have a minimum fee for a set of outputs, or like a minimum fee for an estimator or average transaction shape. And then if your transaction has another shape, then you have different fees. And then let's say that your base fee for a given transaction is the number. Then if you add a premium, what does the premium mean? What does it give you? I think that's the way to think about fees in terms of the user experience. Like, they don't care about anything of the details that we write and we're interested in. They care about, like, I pay this much, how does it, and if I can pay the minimum, if I pay more, what does it give me? I think that's the important way of thinking of it.
I
Sarah?
mean, so if the fee is small enough, then I think it's less important to be able to accurately predict the fee in advance. Because then the user can say, for example, I'm fine accepting any fee that is worth less than 5 US cents or denominated in ZEC if they prefer. And the current minimum fee is about at the current price equivalent to a quarter of a US cent. So these are not large fees, even though we had to increase them to address sandblasting.
Nate?
Yeah, a few things. Plus one to what Jared just said. Maybe a good UX is pick a threshold that is quite likely for most users, for most transactions, to be above the fee, and then just display fee less than equal to 1 cent. It would be good to do like user testing, but my intuition is maybe that's good enough because it just simplifies things for users. And if for me personally, if it's less than 1 cent, I don't care what it actually is, just that it's less than 1 cent. I don't need like 4 digits of precision. The other thing was to push back against something I think Dara said a while ago, which is if fees are the same for everyone, that's bad for sandblasting. That is not supposed to be true for something like EIP 1559, because if there is sandblasting, the fees are the same for everyone, but the fees are also escalating exponentially. So the user experience there would be like, you open your wallet and you say you want to pay something, and it says, whoa, normally it's always less than 1%, but right now it's like 20 cents. And the user's like, ooh, okay, what do I do? I either submit, or we need some way to let the user know if you wait a bit, it should go back down, so you can try again later. I don't know how
I mean,
appealing that user experience is, but then if they choose to wait, it will go back down eventually.
I mean, maybe for 20 cents, this isn't so important, but if it can go higher than that, and it has done on Ethereum and Bitcoin in the past, then that is by itself a denial of service attack if the adversary can cause fees to escalate.
Isn't this the way it currently works on Ethereum?
Yeah, EIP 1559 is exponential. So if an adversary has X ZEC, they can do it. They can raise the fees past the threshold for an hour. If they have 4x ZEC, they can do 2 hours. If they have 8x ZEC, they can do 3 hours or whatever. So
9x ZEC.
Whatever. It's exponential. So they can disrupt it for a given amount of time, and then they've exhausted their funds, right? So to me, that seems pretty strong. The only uncertainty is like how long is that going to be? And then there's the other piece, which is if there's actually enough organic demand constantly, the fees become high, like in Ethereum, then what would we do? And I think we want better scalability.
Agreed. I still think any 1559 like proposal needs a whole lot of security analysis.
I mean, on the plus side, you know, Ethereum's having paved the way there and successfully using that algorithm on their network does give us some confidence that it can be secure.
As a historical detail, Vitalik originally proposed EIP 1559 as a zip for Zcash, and Dara, among others, had a lot of skepticism and wanted to make sure it had really thorough security analysis. So we're using Ethereum as our testnet.
Excellent idea.
The other detail is that Filecoin technically deployed to mainnet first with that kind of fee mechanism before Ethereum adopted it.
I'd forgotten about that. We've got two testnets, Filecoin and Ethereum.
Any other thoughts or questions on the fee topic? User experience of that as well? Just check the chat. Okay. Any other topics? Or yeah, go ahead.
Well, I have a few items for open discussion, and I realized both of them do relate to fees and user experience, but they're sort of tangent.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, so the first one is for ZIP 317. We need two pieces to work out well in order for the experience to be good for users. So one is we're ratcheting up the enforcement and like transitioning the whole network to use those kinds of fees. The other piece is the wallets have to do that. And so there's sort of a give and take. Like if every wallet upgraded first, and then we could just turn on the protocol enforcement and then there'd be no disruption to users. But presumably some wallets won't, or they'll be slow. So we can sort of ratchet things up. I would be concerned though, if we're not reaching out to enough wallets and helping them realize what's going on and what they need to do and plan and schedule around that while we're turning up the mechanisms. So I heard a report, I don't know for sure if it's related to ZIP 317, but a Trezor user created a transaction that wasn't confirming and its fee was too low. And then I think they just retried later and it worked.
So the piece of information here is that the characteristic of the transactions on the network has changed in the last couple of weeks. There are almost all of these transactions now are spending a sapling note to create 48 transparent outputs, all with dust values. And those have been they're for the goal, I think, being to consume the unpaid action limit. And so essentially the attempt is to saturate the mempool with transactions that consume the unpaid action limit and prevent other transactions from getting in. So this is, you know, it was a predictable response, I guess, to ZIP 317 being enacted. And really the solution is for wallets to adopt ZIP 317.
Agreed.
Right. So getting to my point, ECC often historically has done some of that kind of outreach, but I've never felt too certain about how comprehensive that outreach is. Like, are we reaching all of the wallets, or do we even know? Like, I think there's a fair number of wallets that support transparent Zcash that may have a significant number of users that I might not even be aware of. Like, if you mentioned the name, I'd be like, oh, I think I've heard of that. Right.
Koinomi.
Yeah. Like, okay. So I'm hoping as a ecosystem or a community, we can sort of circle the wagons and do better outreach and see if we can be more comprehensive and let these wallets know about ZIP 317 and what's happening. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if there's ways we could as a group, like track who we've done outreach to, or things of that nature. Like we should definitely be doing outreach to anyone listed on z.cash, at the least, in my opinion. So how could we organize that? Is that something? It seems a little bit distinct from the Light Wallet working group, because those are sort of like developers focused on Zcash, whereas I'm more concerned about the long tail of like multi-coin wallets that happen to support Zcash, but maybe they're not paying close attention.
That's a great question. It's something that ECC has previously done and we're not going to do going forward.
Right. So we want to be able to transfer that. And I don't know how to fulfill it within the community. Like, I almost feel like there could be a community ecosystem outreach roles, or people at ZF could help, or people at like maybe Paku, it could be part of your role. I don't know, just brainstorming different ideas. So I'm hoping we can come up with something, especially now because the 317 timeline is advancing.
Yeah, I think there's already a partnership role that Beth was filling in. I don't know if that was under CZG or foundations. Yep. Then I guess that a trusted actor is really important in this case. So like being totally distributed could be a source of attack vector for impersonators to like make partners or wallets or other types of like Zcash users to believe that there are certain instructions they need to follow. So I guess that someone that has legitimacy is really important. That could be my role, or the foundations, or someone in specific that it's created. But I think it's important to be someone that is public and verifiable, and that there's like one group. To not put it in a person to avoid the hit by a bus attack. But yeah, that's something that we should kind of like come up with.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help be a part of that. Absolutely. And Beth's new role is definitely through ZCG. And then Paco, if this isn't out of scope for what you have going on, maybe the three of us can chat about this a bit more and see what we can put together.
I think that my role has a kind of a leeway. Like my milestones are suggestions on what I've like gathered from different wallet teams. So there's definitely room to do that, provided that also like the community is okay with it and the CCG is okay with it. So that that we can work out.
Okay.
I think there should also be an expectation that wallet developers and other developers who are likely to be impacted by protocol changes, including like soft protocol changes like 317, should be either attending these calls or at least watching them or reading the minutes, and paying attention, because you can do all the outreach you want, but I think there is a responsibility on people to be proactive about making sure that they're keeping their product current with regards to the Zcash protocol.
Nate?
Yeah, on that front, I do feel like if we can, I think there can be a balance between how much effort we, the core development community, does versus the long tail of wallets. So, like, I wouldn't expect Koinomi to watch recordings of these videos, but hopefully they would pay attention to the right venue. So I'm assuming maybe they look at like Zcash key release announcements, but that's not the right thing here. So it's almost like maybe there could be a resource page on z.cash with like wallet implementers announcements or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to figure out what's the most likely way to get their attention for the least amount of effort, like the highest leverage.
Haku?
Yeah, I think that the like personal outreach, it's important, but it's just like one instant of it. The moment you have made the outreach and you have been either ignored or acknowledged, then if you were acknowledged, then there's this follow-up where the people you've contacted, that is probably a public contact of the entity you did the outreach for, will forward the information to the implementing team. And I think that there's a lot that we as a like development community need to work on to make the documentation suitable and easy and accessible to teams that are not 100% focused on Zcash and had other duties, so that when we do the outreach or we do communications, then the people that follow up to implement have like 80, I wouldn't say 100 because it would be ideal, but like maybe 60, 70, 80% of the details documented clearly somewhere, and then they can follow up on the different venues we have for other questions. Like that can be like GitHub issues, or it could be like R&D Discord or Discord or whatever other calls. But I think that just the outreach won't cut it. Like I could, or anyone could go and have all the meetings, and then when the people that have met you need to follow up, if they don't have the information somewhere online and it's good and easy to comprehend for people without like a lot of context, then like it won't do much. Like people will say, oh, we don't know how to do it, or we can prioritize it.
Any other thoughts on this? Nate, am I remembering correctly? Did you have a couple points of discussion, or did we cover?
Yeah. No, thanks for remembering. So the other thing is more of a can of worms. So I had a discussion with, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to lower my, okay. I had a one-on-one conversation with Paul Pui of Edge Wallet at Zcon 4 that was engaging and fun. And he had particular opinions about, what Zcash should be prioritizing. And he basically was asking, hey, is there a different way light wallet service providers can do the detection of which transactions are destined to which wallet, so that when wallets open, they just immediately, they make like one request in response. They know what their transactions are. And I said, oh, well, yeah, there's a thing like that we discussed in Zcash called detection keys. But we were trying to figure out how to do that. And every approach that we could come up with requires the service provider to pay a cost per user per transaction. So it didn't seem scalable. And he said, well, that doesn't matter. That's totally worth it. We do something like that for Monero. We were the first wallet to use like a proprietary service that does this for us. And we pay per user per month. And it's expensive and it's totally worth it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I wanted to bring it up here because I think there's a lesson, and also like maybe we should be revisiting. So the lesson is, in my memory of those discussions, it was just engineers or protocol designers assuming, oh, that's not going to work or it's not going to be scalable, but we didn't check with like real live product developers. So that's one lesson. The other lesson, oh shoot, what was the other lesson? Oh, anyway, if we were going to prioritize that, which Paul thinks we should, he thinks it's important, it would be kind of an alternative to a lot of the scanning work that we've been doing. And from what I gather, Monero has both. It has wallets that can take each approach. And Paul asserts that like, you know, a huge proportion of users just do the scan instant sync thing, even though there's privacy trade-offs. So I just wanted to bring it up with this community as like, okay, should we consider this as an alternative or a priority, and share that discussion?
I mean,
Roger?
it kind of depends whether we can fix the scanning performance problems without doing that. Carry on, Dodger.
I'm very much in favor of us looking at detection keys. At the foundation, Deirdre looked a bit at oblivious message retrieval as a potential sort of potential solution to this whole, you know, kind of performance issue. Like, could we shift the burden of scanning to a service provider? I'm, you know, setting aside the question of cost, because if something is valuable enough, then people will figure out how to pay for it. But it didn't seem to present an immediate solution. So I think we should definitely be looking at detection keys. At the end of the day, it will be an entirely optional thing that wallet providers won't be forced to support them. They can support them if they want to, if they think it'll give them a competitive edge in the market. It sounds like Paul believes that it does give edge a competitive edge. That was a totally inadvertent pun, but yeah, it's something I think we should definitely. I suggest that we schedule in for a full sort of discussion during an upcoming Arborist call.
Zugo?
Just wanted to add precision to something Nate said. He said that Paul said, and Paul Pui told me the same thing in a separate conversation at Zcon 4. Paul Pui said that Monero wallets can use this feature that allows them to skip scanning, or they can do scanning, and that approximately all Monero users use the skip scanning feature. But I wanted to clarify that detection keys, as we think of them and as we would implement them, are way better on privacy than that Monero feature. As I understand it, that Monero feature is that you give some random server a view key so they can see all of your private stuff. And most Monero users do that so that they don't have to scan. But detection keys would be great in terms of privacy, in addition to in terms of user experience or other kinds of user experience.
Yeah.
Nate?
Yeah, I had heard that in the past, but I thought in this discussion, Paul said that used to be common, but now there's a new way to do like content encryption. So it sounded to me similar to what we think of as detection keys. But either way, the point stands. The second thing is he shared some info, and I asked if it's okay to share it publicly, and I think he said yes, or I think he said I'm pretty sure he said yes. So a few things. One is they pay about 5 to 10 cents per user per month
Five what?
to an API. 5 cents, dollars, 5/100ths of a dollar per user per month to an API provider to do this. And two, what was I going to say? Oh, two, their revenue mainly comes from integrating into exchanges or exchange protocols. So it sounds like it's worth it for Edge because enough users, like it sounded like providing good support for Monero, including this, has led to adoption of Edge by a lot of Monero users, and enough of them are using the exchange functionality that it makes it worthwhile to pay for this service.
Interesting.
Any other thoughts on this?
Wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of way of paying someone to do this, like some kind of mechanism of payment, like almost like a currency of some kind that you could use to pay someone, you know, trustlessly and anonymously to do this sort of scanning for you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take that idea away and think about it. I have a couple of other topics I wanna raise quickly once we're done with this.
Nate, do you still have your hand up, or is it?
I do. I don't. Yeah. So that reminded me, Dodger, of this area of design I'm keen to explore, which is, are there ways we can add like fees into a transaction that get paid out to different kinds of service providers? So this might have a bunch of different use cases, but one might be, is there a way we can white wallet the providers to be paid by the users somehow? Or other use cases might be if we have like Tor integration or other sort of network privacy infrastructure providers. Is there a way that users could pay for that as part of transaction fees? Just a general design area. I don't have more to say than that, other than I'm interested in it.
Gotta jump. Thanks, y'all.
You want to say that last part again, Nate? Maybe just.
It's a design area I'm really keen to explore because it may be helpful for like incentivizing and making sustainable other kinds of infrastructure like light wallet D, network privacy providers, or things of that nature.
Cool. Dodger, did you say you had some other topics?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that we, when ECC declares an end to emergency mode, we're going to look to schedule an NU5 retro. So can ask that ECC folks keep us updated on that, so we can plan for it at an appropriate time. I also want to ask, is there anything ZF can do to help with efforts to resolve the current network congestion issues?
Wallet outreach, I think, like Paku was discussing, is probably the single most significant thing that that can be done. And then the other piece is, as far as ZF specifically, I'm not sure as far as the overall community goes. Testing the SDKs before their release is also really helpful.
Okay.
or before their final release.
So then, at the risk of opening a window into the sausage factory, Dan, can you take the lead from the ZF side in terms of reaching out to wallet providers and making sure that they're aware of ZIP 317 and what they should be doing to update their software. So consider that part done, Chris.
Yeah.
And as always, the more passive thing, which is easy to say and then just gets left. But if there's anything more that we can do to help things move along quicker, please do let me know. And then yeah, let's leave it there. I do have another thing, but we can discuss it during a future Arborist call. It's not urgent.
Okay. Thanks, Dodger. Any other topics that anybody would like to bring up before we move on?
I noticed the Q&A box. Andrew Arnott is asking for help with a PR on a zip repo. Just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Yes, that slipped my mind. I was planning to mention that as well. Andrew, I suspect that the reason it has taken so long for that to get some attention is because it looks like it was submitted around the time of Zcon when we were all in Barcelona and/or on vacation. I know that a lot of people have taken vacation after Zcon or have taken time off in lieu for the time that they spent traveling to get there. So I would suggest that it's more a case of just bad, unfortunate timing rather than people not being interested in paying attention to it. And I do think that Dara has looked at it in the past couple of days.
Yes, thank you. And that's totally cool if people are busy. This is my very, very first PR into that repo. I just wanted to know if I was missing some process, or maybe I shouldn't have had one PR with changes to 4 documents because each document is owned by an individual, type thing.
I'll let the zip editors respond on the formats and whatnot, but yeah, I think it was just unfortunate timing, and we definitely want to encourage more people to contribute in the way that you have done. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Looks like Chris just shared that in the R&D Discord as well. Okay, so if we don't have anything else in the open discussion portion, we can jump forward here. Yesterday, we announced the second round of the Zcash Foundation's Minor Grants Program. The applications are now open for grants up to $25,000. The deadline is Monday, September 18th, and you can find more information at zfnd.org/minorgrants or in the thread, the Minor Grants thread on the forum as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ping me either on the forum or Twitter or email. And yeah, we look forward. We actually had Andrew was a minor grantee recipient earlier this year, and we just love to see a bunch of applications and more participation. So we look forward to seeing those come through. Okay, and I think that's it. Thank you guys. The next call is September 7th at the 2100 UTC time slot, and yeah, just please go to the foundation website in the Arborist call section to use the new links to register. And I'll share those around as well, just so on the forum and the Discords and whatnot and Twitter. So thank you guys, I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.